Now, let me say this for the people who don't know. These Houston Mexicans are racist. The Houston Latino people are racist. I'm telling you, listen, I have been dealing with them for over 12, 13 years. You feel what I'm saying? These folks are racist, bro. Anytime you go on a job, the only focal point is going to be the black people. They're not going to tell their people nothing. They're going to let their people pretty much do whatever they want. But they're only going to focus on the things that you do wrong. I go through it all the time. You see what I'm saying? Now, mind you, I only work 2 days out the week. I really don't need to work, but I need to get out the house so I wouldn't be just sitting in the house really doing nothing. But anyway, from construction jobs to fast food jobs, that's why a lot of teenagers don't have fast food jobs, because you got 40, 50, 35-year-old immigrants, illegal, that's working these jobs. Because what they do, they fire all the black people. Once a Mexican become a manager, they fire all the black people, get them out of there, whether it's paperwork, whether it's through picking with them, whether it's whatever kind of situation, they get them out of there and put their people in there. Every single time. But it's not that they do that, it's the way they do it. You hear me? They can't rise up without shitting on the American black person or the black person, period. They can't rise up without doing that. If you know anything about working with a Mexican, they always telling so they could get a position, so they could get a spot. And that's not the way to do it. They always discriminating on who? Us, every time. It's no other group they attack like this. Never. And if you from Houston, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you won't be in denial, just be in denial. I don't give a damn. But yeah, man, they are very, very segregated and very racist. Only when it come down to us, kiss the white people ass, kiss the Asian ass, kiss everybody else ass. That's just what it is. If you don't like what I'm saying, I know plenty of Mexicans. Y'all teach y'all women not to mess with black men, and y'all teach y'all men not to mess with black women. This is what y'all teach in the household. Now, this is not all of them, because you got some great Mexicans that don't see no color, right? But for the most part, 90% of the time, this is what you're going to get from a lot of Mexicans, especially the older ones. If it's some younger ones, I don't really get it from them, but you're going to especially get it from the older ones. The younger ones that do it is the ones who was taught that in their household.
What else? Go ahead, though. I'm listening to you, bro. All that clown and shit you was saying. Fucking mess.
Why are you trying to listen to me, though, you fucking mayate?
Good. What do that mean, bro? Explain to my chat, what do that mean? A miyate.
A mayate.
What is that?
Like, a mayate, bro, is like a light skin. You know what I mean? Light skin, beautiful, pretty. That's what a mayate is, bro. Light skin, beautiful, pretty.
You is calling me that, nigga?
Hell yeah, mayate. You don't think you're pretty?
Oh, yes, bro. Go ahead, yo, teach me something else. Whatever little racist shit y'all be saying, bro.
Hey, you don't think you're pretty?
What's the other racist shit y'all be saying?
That shit just mayate, negro, moño. Fuck yeah.
You ever been with a black girl before, bro?
Hell no, I don't like to play in the mud.
They don't want you, your little dick ass nigga. You got a 4-inch dick.
Hey, I like to play in the mud. You know why?
They don't want you. Got a 4-inch dick, bro.
Hey,
that's why construction working ass nigga come fix my motherfucking house, huh?
You don't got a
house. For low wage.
Your ass look like you live in section.
And a 6-can of beer, nigga, a 6-pack.
He said a 6-pack.
Fuck you, Home Depot working ass nigga. Go stand in front of Home Depot.
Hey, tell me that. I appreciate the motherfucking everybody.
What's wrong with this kid? Hey, y'all, though, let's get active, y'all. We need
bro, you don't got nobody
in the handhold.
Fuck, you gonna get active, you fucking mayate? Now fucking spit
fucking miyate.
Yeah, you're a mayate.
You want to be
you're a mayate.
You're a fucking Mexican.
You're a mayate and I'm a mayate from the waist down. There's two different.
It's 10 of y'all in the same house, yo. Fuck you talking about?
Hey, you're a mayate. I'm a mayate from the waist down.
You it's 10 of y'all in the same house in the same minivan.
No, nigga, there's only one person in my room.
Fuck you talking about? Fuck you, man. Hey, where Ice at, yo? Where Ice at, nigga? They ain't catch your motherfucking ass yet.
Hell,
come in the camera.
Bro, I got papers.
You want to be black, shorty? You want to be me, y'all?
Shut your...
You want to be me, my nigga? Hey, yo.
I want to be you.
Look at it. Come in the camera. It's come in the camera.
I'm gonna come in the
You
camera.
don't even want to.
Ain't no fucking way, bro. Yo, you ballsy with that fucking hat, nigga. Wait, yo.
I love your
This guy's
concept.
fucking ballsy. Wait, what's your name, bro?
Armando.
Yeah. Are you Mexican?
I'm descendant, yeah.
You're a Mexican groiper, bro.
Exactly, just like Nick Fuentes.
Yo, you're gonna make this shit hot, bro. Get the fuck away from me, nigga. Boy,
Yes, many Mexicans in America are proud racists. Yes, I thought y'all knew that, blackity blacks. I thought y'all knew that. Yes, this is no secret. It's no hiding it. Listen, this is the decade of truth. All truths will be revealing itself all year after year for the next decade. Yes, many Mexican Americans don't mess with the blackity blacks. They don't mess with the African Americans. They don't mess with the black Americans. Yes, they do this. They will get into management, and yes, if they can, they will get you up out of there because they only care about themselves. They don't care about the history of the country. They don't care about what your people fought for. They don't care about any of that. Listen, the very first time that I've experienced racist behavior, racist attitudes, y'all want to guess? Y'all want to guess who it was? It was a Mexican. And this is coming from somebody who was born in the dirty South. I was born in the dirty South, Georgia, right? Yeah, if you get deep into the suburbs, yeah, white folks will look at you a little funny. But as long as you ain't on no nigga-ish, then you all good. How you doing, sir? Yes, okay. Gotta watch him. Gotta watch him. All right. But besides that, if you carried yourself well, you didn't, nothing to really happen, right? And usually blacks and whites in the South usually live pretty hospitably, if that's a word. They live pretty hospitably, especially in small towns. They on that side, we're on our side. We see each other at a grocery store. Seems to be all good. All right. But the very first time I experienced racist attitudes, racist behavior was from the Mexicans, and that's when I came out to Texas. All right, so it's a fact. I know this to be true, right? And I know the attitude, I know the sentiment amongst Mexicans in America. They will sit up there and call you pinche maeta, pinche millete, pinche, however you pronounce it. Right? They'll sit there and call you that to your face. They'll say it in Espanol because they wouldn't dare say it in English because most of the times they probably get the smack knocked out of them. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, this is known. And listen, I even have historical context to back up some of this. So we're going to get into the conversation. So I'm going to go through some historical context, for some of the reasonings behind this. I'm gonna give you some historical context, especially in the state of Texas, on why there's always been such animosity between the blacks and the Mexicans. Okay, so this is real research, right? This is a real article. I will pin this to the description. I will pin this in the comment section. Let the negro fight his own battles, declared Felix Tejerina, a Mexican-American civil rights activist in Texas and the national president of the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, in 1957. Tejerina was responding to suggestions by some of his colleagues that Mexican-Americans ally with the African-Americans. No, he said. The Negros' problems are not mine, he retorted. I don't want to ally with them. 13 years later, Reverend D. Leon, the lone black member of the Houston School Board, and the leader of the local chapter of the NAACP, expressed pessimism over the possibility for black and brown unity after a Mexican-American youth told him that we don't want to go to school with the blacks because they are dirty, right? They are dirty. So you got to understand, many of the Mexicans, they adopted that white Southern mentality, that white Jim Crow mentality. This was the attitude back in the 50s. Makes you wonder, huh? All right, so moving on. As a black man, I will join any group of oppressed people, he declared. But when that group employs the same form of discrimination that I've been up against all these years, I will cut them loose. Everett proved just as susceptible to the monolithic view denouncing Mexican Americans en masse as he too declared, let them fight their own battle. So you guys can kind of get a gist of how this started, right? You can get a gist of how this started. Mexican Americans, they wanted to be white, right? They wanted to be close to whiteness, right? And in a sense, they wanted to uphold. They wanted to uphold Jim Crow, right? So they can be close to master, right? So they can be close to their enslaver, their rapist, right? They wanted to be close to him, right? They didn't want to align with the blacks. They didn't want to fight the same for the same causes as the blacks. No. They wanted to be on the other end. And this has been true, I mean, even all the way up until now. Even all the way up until now. You got the Mexicans still pulling the same old tricks. Let's continue this history lesson. All right? So in Texas maintained a dual Jim Crow system, which enforced discrimination against both populations through a hodgepodge of laws and customs and separated both groups, not only from whites, but from each other. Classic divide and conquer that the whites have been practicing since domination, okay? Anglos had set these groups apart for the purpose of maintaining white supremacy. To acquire power from whites, blacks and Mexican Americans had to work against each other. Oh, and peep this. Mexican Americans attempted to pressure white Texans to recognize them as fellow whites, a status granted by the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, but one which whites ignore. You know, whites ignore laws, rules for thee and not for me, okay? Mexican Americans focus on whiteness ultimately damaged their relations with African Americans. By arguing for whiteness, Mexican Americans attempted to destroy Jim Crow as it applied to Mexican origin people. Since blacks battled to end segregation altogether, Mexican Americans' white racial formation ran counter to African American aims. Rather than trying to destroy an inherently unjust social order, Mexican American civic groups sought to include Mexican Americans on the white side of Jim Crow. Right? I'm going to post this article. Not surprisingly, many black Texans simmered with resentment. Some blacks interpreted white racial formation negatively. They saw it as proof that Mexican Americans, like racist Anglos, opposed the black movements. Right? This made Mexican Americans adversaries of black civil rights. So y'all got to understand, this history runs deep. This history runs deep. Mexican Americans have always tried to align themselves with whiteness, right? Even when whites clearly told them, you ain't white, buddy. Take that ish to Mexico, buddy. Right? Whites put them in a place every single time. And Mexicans go crawling back. Oh, wait. No, look at me. I have straight hair. Look at me. I'm not Anglo white, but I'm a little bit light skinned. Why can't I be a part of the movement? We don't want to be with the blacks. We don't want to go to school with the blacks. We want to go to school with you, massa. We want to go to school. It's so funny because Mexicans be so quick. They be so quick to, throw out black jokes. They be so quick to throw out little slave jokes, but in reality, who's really the slave? In reality, who's really the slave? In reality, who really fought against an unjust system, right, in a country that they were forced into, first and foremost, 400 plus years ago, right, into a system that was created against them? Who fought that system? Right? Who fought that system? Meanwhile, many of you, your lineage comes from a different country, a country that you refuse to stand up against. Y'all refuse to stand up against the cartello. Y'all refuse to stand up against a clearly broken, much broken in America. You clearly refuse to stand up against oppression even in your own countries that you come from or that you have lineage from, that your great grandparents fled from or that your grandparents fled from. You didn't even stand up in that system. So it makes sense. It makes plenty of sense. Now, I'm not trying to put this on all Mexican Americans, but culturally, this has been a thing. Culturally, the sentiment is anti-black. Culturally, they have, en masse, always went against even the best interests of themselves, which continues today, even in 2026. So, although the whiteness strategy enabled them to make gains, Mexican Americans found it unsatisfying because even if they did compel the state to recognize them as white, some of the time, they could do little to alter the attitudes of white citizens and officials or the racially discriminatory practice which they enforced, right? Mexican American leaders successfully lobbied institutions such as hospitals to remove the category of Mexican from forms and to categorize Mexican Americans formally as whites. Often, however, these same institutions will quietly revert to their earlier tripartite categorization scheme. Excuse my reading, but essentially, they were like, "Nah, y'all got to put us as white. We want to be white. Remove Mexican and put white." And guess what the whites did? They were like, "Hell no, boy, not around these parts." Not around these parts, you don't. I don't care what the mayor said. I don't care what the goddamn governor said. You gonna always be a Mexican to me, boy. Change it back. He ain't white. He ain't white at all. He ain't white. That boy ain't white. He definitely ain't white. Where is he from? Hey, that boy is from south of the border. All right. Change it back to Mexican. Okay? Oh, and look at this one. Ooh, some Mexican Americans asserted their whiteness aggressively in their interactions with blacks. In 1950, unknown vigilantes detonated a series of 15 bombs at the homes of blacks who were integrated into white neighborhoods. Oh my God, they said, hell no. Hell no. Y'all gonna let El Negro come up in here before you let me? We supposed to be friends, man. Y'all gonna let El Negro come up in here. Y'all gonna let him integrate into y'all neighborhood before y'all let us? Man, that's a bull. So they went and got the bombs on y'all ass. They went and got the bombs on the black and the blacks. They said, hell no. No, not pinche bayete. Not the pinche bayete, right? So like bombers in Birmingham, Alabama and other southern cities, right? The terrorist acts in Dallas stemmed from the migration of blacks out of overcrowded, segregated neighborhoods and into areas zoned for white use. But in South Dallas, two of the main suspects were Mexican-American men who felt threatened by the encroachment of African-American families into white neighborhoods. Imagine being offended for some shit that you ain't even a part of. You mad, but you can't even get in the club. Right? This is what this is right here. They were threatened by the encroachment of African-American families into white neighborhoods. So you essentially have Mexicans trying to uphold white supremacy even when it does not benefit them. Nick Fuentes. These were the civil rights era Nick Fuenteses. Okay? One of these individuals, Pete Garcia, later admitted that he had painted 4 whites only signs in the neighborhood, threatened black home buyers with a knife, and chased 2 African-American real estate agents out of the area. What did I tell y'all? This runs deep. Even some civil rights activists were inclined to assert their whiteness through acts of discrimination against blacks. Although they usually did so with words rather than dynamite, LULAC leader, right, Tejerina, enforced a strict Jim Crow policy at his business. Come on, man. He took the unusual step of posting a detailed policy statement as in regards to the Negros, serving the Negros and serving the whites. Okay? Most eating establishments simply hung a whites-only sign, but Tejerina charted out specific situations and gave his staff stock statements to use if African Americans attempted to be seated at one of his restaurants. Tejerina and others like him clearly hoped that by drawing sharp distinctions between themselves and blacks, Mexican Americans might pull themselves in alliance with the whites. Listen, man. This has always been about, hold up, let me get my camera right. This has always been about aligning themselves with whites, aligning themselves with the Anglo-Saxon American whites. This is all that this is ever about. They didn't want to fight. They didn't want to fight anything. Right? Like I said, many of them come from countries they didn't fight there. They didn't stand up against the violence there. They didn't stand up against their government there. They didn't stand up against Cartelo there. No, they ran. They fled. Many of them did. Right? Don't tell me about Texas used to belong to you. Don't tell me about no California, no New Mexico. Nobody care about that shit. We bought that shit. Okay? Y'all, most fled. Most Americans fled Mexico. Many of the lineage comes from people border hopping. Right? To make a better life for themselves, not trying to take that away. However, once they got over here, which is it still became the sentiment of today. Once they got over here, they wanted to align themselves with the whites. They wanted to align themselves with the white power structure. And let me tell you something. Assimilation is not alignment with injustice. Right? You can assimilate into a culture, and you can assimilate into the dominant culture without trying to uphold injustice, without trying to uphold racism, without trying to practice, unjust actions like trying to get black people fired, right? Trying to get into management positions just so you can make it all Mexicans, right? Which in some places, this is still the practice today, right? As you can see, as you've seen with the video that I posted earlier, right? This still happens today. And till this day, Mexicans still try to pull off the white card. See, this is where I ask the question. Should black Americans support ICE? I'll leave that question to you. Because let me tell you something. I'm not anti-immigration, right? I believe, like a sane American, that much of our country has been maintained, much of our GDP is attributed to migration or immigration. You can't deny that. Many do work jobs that Americans just don't want to work. So we can acknowledge the contribution that immigrants have made to the country. I mean, it was a country, basically maintained by immigrants, but the system, the structure was built by enslaved Africans, which are now the Black Americans or the FBA's, Foundational Black Americans, right? Who are here in America. We can't deny that. So here's my thing. The reason why black people have such a sour taste in their mouth when it comes not just to Mexicans, but many immigrant groups, even from the African diaspora, many of these groups, not just the Mexicans, the Africans, the Jamaicans, right, the Chinese, right, the white ones too, Ukrainians, Russian, many of them, because many of them came to this country when the work was already done. They benefit from a post-civil rights immigration policy, right? So when I see black people, right, oh man, you should support ICE. Now let me get this straight. Let me get this corrected. However, I don't support illegal tactics that are said to be going on, said to be performed by federal agents. I don't support that. However, get them up out of here. Get them up out of here. If you ask me, I say we sell California, sell South Texas, sell New Mexico, sell Nevada, and call it a day. This is what I say. Because the sentiment still exists. The sentiment still exists. Who wants California anyway? Let's be honest. But the sentiment still exists. And these are not people with this certain sentiment, right? Not saying all. I'm just saying if the shoe fit, hey, F you, right? Culturally, these people should not be in political power, right? See, yeah, you can complain about the whites all day long, right? But I would venture to say the whites are better than the white Americans are better than many of the immigrant groups who are coming into America today, and even in the past, right? Yes, we still have issues. Black Americans still have issues with white America, with the white political structure or the white power structure. Not saying that, but that's a whole different topic. And that's a whole different subject matter. However, right? However, many whites will and have given opportunity to many black Americans. Right? Now I'm not sitting up here trying to simp and to S.A.D., right? Pause no Diddy, right? To suck off on them, pause no Diddy, but I got to call a spade, right? The white power structure still has given blacks that opportunity to succeed even further than many of them, right? I have to acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Like I said, we still have our problems, but Mexican Americans, they really want to uphold white supremacy. They really want to uphold racism, even when clearly, damn near for the past 60, 70 years, it has not worked in their favor. They still want to uphold it because they want to be close to it. They want to subconsciously feel better than the rest of the groups. And this goes for other groups of people too. This goes for the Chinese, this goes for the Asians, this goes for the Indians. I'm not exclusively talking about I am exclusively talking about Mexicans, but Mexicans just the main topic, right? And the main group. But this goes for many other immigrant groups, including Africans as well. Right? Let's continue. So to end this off, blacks and Latinos continue to view each other as competitors, not allies. As the Latino community expands, these issues seem likely to persist. And like I said, this is exactly what we see today. We see these same issues persist today. And it's a mix of things. It's a mix of things. Let me tell you, as a black man who has dated Latinas, majority being Mexicanas, right? I would tell you that many of the Latin men, they want to overcompensate. I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. Many of the Latino men, specifically Mexican men, they want to overcompensate, right? Because they know that many Latinas, they go for black men. They be sucking and bending that thing over. Let's call a spade, right? Now we don't want the refrigerators. We don't want them Latinos. Y'all can have those, the ones in the video. Y'all can have those. Now we want the baddies, and many of the baddies, they go for blacks. Sorry. Or even if it's not a relationship oriented, many of these girls, many of these Latinas, they fuck on blacks. Right? That's really why many of the Latino men be mad. Right? On top of some other things. Right? And let me tell you, because I once dated this Mexican chick. Right? And she told me specifically, many of the Mexican men, they'll ask like on some fruit loop, some cake shit. Have you been with a black guy? They pull the same shit that many of those white boys pull, right? Have you ever been with a black guy? Right? And guess what? I'm gonna tell y'all, if you Mexican and you watching, they're gonna lie to you. They're gonna lie, right? White boys too. They're gonna lie. All right. So they will tell y'all no, because they know how y'all get. Y'all be trying to crash out, right? Oh no, you did what? No, you can't do that. Why? Why? Bonita, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué, bonita? ¿Por qué? Why? ¿Por qué el negro? Right? They'll start crashing out. But the truth is, listen, you can't do nothing about it. If you want to practice homogeny, ninja, go back to Mexico. Right? If you want to practice homogeny, take your ass to Europe. All right? Take that shit somewhere else. Go to Eastern Europe. Right? America is a melting pot. Right? No, don't nobody own nothing. You don't own black chicks, you don't own white chicks, you don't own Latinas, ninja, everybody belong to everybody. How about that? Right? But many of them be mad at that. I know they be mad at that. Ninja, they be mad because they be short and stocky, ninja. They be come on now. Right? They mad because they ain't built like a ninja. They mad at a whole bunch of things. Right? And to be honest with you, there's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy in the Mexican community as well, because you got to think nothing that they did worked. Right? Even when they tried to get close to whiteness, right? As I just read, right? Later on, the Chicano movement preceded that. So then they went from white to brown. And this happened in the 60s. Why do you think it happened in the 60s? Because they seen how the civil rights movement panned out. Right? So then they got away from whiteness because that shit wasn't gonna work. Still don't work to this day. They wanted to get away from whiteness and go towards the Chicano movement. Right? Now they wanna do the whole brown movement. Right? Now we brown, not white. I'm like, that seems kind of odd. And many civil rights leaders on the black side seeing that, that's kind of weird. Seems like you're doing this well because we made headway. Right? So you got to think the sentiment with black Americans with a lot of these immigrant groups is y'all benefit from things that our lineage fought for and died for. Y'all didn't fight for shit. Right? Y'all just ride waves. You know what's so crazy? I had to put this Mexican dude in his place, like a young Mexican dude. Right? He had made a black joke or something, and which I didn't find funny, and I put his ass in his place. Right? I gave him the history. I gave him a history lesson. And first and foremost, I gave him a history lesson on himself. Right? Because he made a slave joke. Right? He made a slave joke. It was so corny. And, I hit back at him, and I was like, yeah, we got to get Buddy up out of here. Yeah. Let me go ahead and call them alphabet boys. We got to get Buddy out of here. Nah, we don't do that around here. We don't make jokes. We don't make jokes about history. Not in the fashion that he said. And I'm like, what's your history? What's your history? He's like, I'm Mexican. What was since you made a slave joke, what was the primary language in that area? Right before the Spaniards came? He was like, Spanish. That's weird. Okay, let me ask you again, right? You idiot. What was the native language in that region before the Spaniards came and, raped, pillaged, mixed y'all all up, made you mutts, right? Brought in their religion. Y'all weren't Catholic. That region was not practicing Catholicism, right? Around that time period when the Spaniards came. No, they gave you Catholicism. They gave you that. They gave you Spanish, right? They killed you off. Damn near enslaved you too. So please tell me, what was the native language around that time period? And I believe you pronounce it Nahuatl. But I'll put it up on the screen so you can see. But I had to put him in his place. I was like, you don't even know your history. Right? You don't even know your own history. But then you want to sit up here and joke about somebody else's history. Right? And many of them are like that. Many of it stems from a lack of education. Much of ignorance stem from lack of education. Now there's certain people that just straight hateful, not off of ignorance, just only because they choose to be hateful, right? But the little Mexican dude didn't even know his history. First of all, you're fat and sloppy. You need to get in shape. Then you're ugly, right? You're trying to make a slave joke when it's really not funny. When your whole lineage has been mixed up into much. That's the reason why a lot of Mexicans, they don't know what to choose. They want to be black on a good day, right? They want to engulf themselves in black culture on a good day, but then when it's time to cozy up to massa, right? They want to make all kind of jokes and black jokes and throw out the hard ER, go all Nick Fuentes on a ninja, right? They don't know who to be, right? So many Mexicans in America, they're going through an identity crisis. Quite frankly, it's an identity crisis, right? Throughout time, especially in America, right? Abuela and abuelo been telling them, no, don't associate with the negros. No, don't associate with the negros, right? Don't bring back a negro, right? No, we better than the negros, right? They've been hearing this throughout childhood. They've been hearing this in the family house. So that translates into how they behave in the real world. And not saying everybody, got to keep saying that, got to keep reiterating that, because I've met plenty of Mexicans and people from who have Hispanic origin, and they've told me they reject that notion, right? Have clearly told me, yeah, like this be going on, and yeah, they be saying this, but you know, I just grew up to reject that mindset. There's many of them like that. So let's get it clear, right? I'm not saying everybody, right? And you have many of the young generation, they also reject that, but you have also many of the younger generation going the Nick Fuentes route, right? Going all AWOL. And what you will see is many of them also, they support white supremacist movements. I think one of the last big shooters, right, was, I believe, of Mexican origin, right? Which makes sense. Nick Fuentes, right? The Garcia guy back in the 50s bombing black homes. And then you had a guy in Allen, Texas. He was Mexican, right? He was a part of some neo-Nazi group, online group or something, and he went up and shot up the mall and killed people. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So, should black people support ICE? I say, let the immigrants and the lineage of immigrants fight for the civil rights they never fought for in the first place. And that's an after pill. And to be honest, a lot of black people should have stopped supporting immigrants a long time ago. It should have never even got to the point where it's gotten now, right? Because dig this, and I've mentioned this before. When it comes to small business loans, when it comes to other business loans, when it comes to home loans, when it comes to resources that should have went to black Americans, many black Americans, y'all let this shit slide. Y'all let it slide. Y'all shouldn't have been so cozy with many of these immigrants in the first place. Listen, this is no hate. I'm not advocating for hate. I'm not advocating for any kind of violence or anything. I am simply giving historical context and also talking about what is going on current day and, giving my perspective on it, right? I'm not advocating for any kind of hate, discrimination, or any of that. However, we got to call a spade, right? Black people, black Americans, y'all seen how many of these immigrant groups, they wasn't trying to mess with you. You seen the Mexicans, they wasn't trying to latch on to the civil rights movement. That should have been a lesson, right? So while Martin Luther King was sitting around here talking about I have a dream, y'all should have been establishing equity in your country. That's what you should have been doing. But instead, you want to advocate for every other group of people. Bullshit. No more. No mas. Right? I would personally say it's too late. However, this should have been going on. Y'all should have been establishing a boundary real quick, right? Nobody should have been coming through America especially as an immigrant, without black say-so. Yep, I said it. None of them. Not the Mexicans, not the Africans, not the Ukrainians, not none of their ass. The Chineseians, none of them. None of them should have been able to come to America and benefit from resources that our ancestors fought and died for, and then people want to come over here and toot a nose up? Hell no. Nah. See, I'm built different. Nah, I would have put an end to that shit. I would have put an end to that real quick. So now black Americans are seeing what, other people are talking about. Now you're seeing what portions of white America is talking about. Now y'all seeing it. Many of these people, they come over here and they hate America in the first place, right? Which I've talked about plenty of times. Nobody really loves America. They just love the economy that provides them money and resources that they can send back home, right? That's what it is, right? There's places in DFW, there's places in Dallas that you have to know Spanish, literally. There's places in the DFW, imagine that. There's many states in the United States, many places in this country that you go to and you can't speak English because nobody speaks English around you. So imagine that. People are coming here with entitlement. You coming here with entitlement to a country that your folks didn't build, right? The thing about black people that you gotta admire is black people fought for rights in a system and a country that was built against them. When they built the foundation and the structure of this country, the reason why America is a superpower is because of black enslaved Africans, right? Do a history lesson. Cotton was the main moneymaker for America during that time period. Cotton made America the superpower that it is. Cotton produced a lot of income for America. Banks insured slaves. Those same banks, they got money on interest payments. Those same banks that made money from cotton being picked. Those same banks are the ones who made sure that redlining was possible. Those same banks made sure that gerrymandering was possible. Those same banks made sure that black people couldn't get home loans, couldn't get homes in certain areas. Those same banks used that same money, right, to push black people on the outskirts and made sure that whites, right, primarily got those loans. That same money built infrastructure. That same money built up universities. That same money, that same Blue Benjamin. That same Blue Benjamin. So don't talk to me about what black people didn't do. What the fuck did you do? This goes for all immigrants. What did you do? Right? Man, yeah, we can go throughout history. We know the Chinese built the railroads and blah, 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 blah. Right? The Italians, yeah. The Mexicans, yeah. I know the history. I know some history. However, many of the immigrants that are here today are new immigrants. These are post-civil rights immigrants that are here today. Many of them, most of them. Right? So y'all got to understand that now many black Americans are saying, shit, let ICE have their way. They don't respect us anyway. Right? Let the Negroes solve their own problems. The Negroes did solve some of the problems, right? There's many problems, but they solved some of the problems, right? Did a lot of great things that many of the immigrants are benefiting from now, right? But no, let the Mexicans handle their problems. Let the immigrants, like I said, let the immigrants fight for their civil rights that they didn't fight for in the first place. Because Lord knows that they love cozying up to Whitey. They love cozying up to Massa, right? Many immigrants do. The Indians love it. The Mexicans love it. The Africans, they love cozying up to the white man, right? But love to talk about how black people were enslaved. Ninja, many of y'all are still slaves now, especially Mexicans. Ninja, y'all work like slaves, right? And you know, white people love Mexicans. white people on the low love immigrants, right? Because they like to use y'all to say they little racist jokes, right? And Mexicans, they love eating that shit up. Yeah, you racist, I'm racist too. Yeah, well, let's get it, right? They love that. But in reality, they just use y'all like little mules, right? They use y'all like little mules, right? To get the racism off their chests, right? And you think, oh yeah, we locked in. He's racist, I'm racist. I'm close to white. I think I look a little white. I'm a little light skinned, right? Y'all think y'all locked in, right? But in reality, he don't like your ass either. He don't like your ass either. Right? So like I said, Mexicans are, they Mexican this day, they want to be niggas on a different day, right? Then they want to be white on a different day, right? But in reality, you know, they have an identity problem, right? Because they're a mixed people. They're a mixed people. Indigenous, African, and European Spaniard, right? They don't know which side of the aisle to go to. Just saying.
I built a life. I built a family. I worked my hands raw to get here, and I'm not done. This is the Escape Blueprint, PFP Life, a way out of the grind and into control. You'll learn how I stack cash, build systems, and reclaim time so you can live on your own terms. You will watch me maneuver and grind towards the life that I achieve for myself, and you can also do the same. Join the circle, join the Patreon, learn the steps, and protect your freedom. The Escape Blueprint, PFP Life.